Don Bailey, the boring head. Just took it out of the box, and we want to show you some of the things that you need to be aware of. For example, the R8 collet adapter, we want to make sure that it's tight. We know in this case that it is, but we'll double check it when we get out in the shop. The other thing that needs to be looked at is the gib. We can see that that's pretty loose. That won't work because you're not going to get a good part if you decide to use it. So we're going to snug those up, and I like to use the long end of the Allen wrench because we're not trying to reach down on it. We're not trying to clamp it down forever. All we're trying to do is to snug it up so we get the backlash out of it. And I like to do that a couple times just to make sure that it's seated. And I'm pretty comfortable with that. That feels pretty good. And now we should be able to move this slide back and forth via the micro adjustment here. That micro adjustment is the heart of the boring head, because that's what you're going to use to move it one way or another and to enlarge in the hole that you're going to be boring. And you can see that this is now working, and it's nice and snug. I like that. It's got a good feel to it. And probably after I move this in and out a few times, I'm going to go back and readjust this gib just to make sure I'm comfortable with it. So now we need to show you about the different boring bits that you can use. Obviously different lengths for different length of holes. So we have, in this case, 3 different lengths and 3 different size bits. For the smallest of the holes, it's going to go in the middle hole. And of course, it'll rotate around in usually a clockwise direction. And it's important, in fact, it's critical, that the cutting edge is lined up almost perpendicular to the boring head itself. If you have it too far this way, it's going to rub on the heel when you're in your hole, and it's not going to cut. Same thing this way. You put it in this way, it'll a little more forgiving this way, but it's still not right. You want to set it so it's just about like so. Then you can put it, for a larger hole, you can put it on the outside edge if you need to. And then you can make probably up to about a, about a 2-inch hole in this location. Or you can put it out here for an even larger hole. So it's a pretty versatile tool, and this gives you an idea of what the boring bar capabilities are. Again, the most important part is the adjustment here. And remember one thing, these are 1/1000 increments. So you can see it's numbered from 0 to 10 to 20 and so forth. If you move it to 10, Glenn, what do you think? You're taking off 10/1000s?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
No. But I didn't expect you to know. You're taking off 20 because you're taking off 10/1000s on each side. It's moving 10/1000s. So you're going to be taking out 20,000. So you need to.
I should know that by now.
Right, that's okay. We need to remember that. So those of you out there that are senior members, you already know about that. But this is more directed to the beginner, the guy that's kind of excited that he just got his first boring head. And he's going to go out there and bore a couple of holes. That's kind of exciting. So let's go back and we'll take a look at that, and we're going to show you how this works. So we're going to do a little boring. And that's not really boring, but that's what we're going to do because it is boring. So first thing we're going to do is drill a couple of holes, and we'll start with our center drill. And as you can see, so that's our center drill. So we're going to put in 7/16. Last hole, put a little more stuff, looks like STP. I don't even know what it is, but I know the guys use it in the shop and they seem to like it. So there we go. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I learned about chip brushes, particularly in a grinding area. I don't like using an air hose to blow the chips off, frankly. They get all over the place, and particularly when they're sort of greasy or oily. My view, it's not stiff. So what I've done is I've cut it off. I'm going to put it on a rag here so I can throw it out. I don't want to make a mess all over the place. So I like to do this. To me, now that's a good chip brush because it's got some firmness to it. It doesn't flop around all over the place. Blonde mustache.
Looks like I got a haircut.
Yeah, it does look like you, doesn't it? Come over here for a second. Let me see your backside. Look at that. That does match, man. You have a great mustache. So, we're boring a hole. We just bored 1/2 inch hole, and we decide that we need to move 1 inch, and we really need to be pretty accurate. That is, we need to be within a couple of tenths. We don't want to depend on the graduations on the table because it's hard to read within a tenth, and we don't have a readout. What do? Pretty simple. We come over here. If we know we want to move 1 inch, we bore our first hole. We put a 1 inch gauge block in here, bore the hole, remove the gauge block, loosen the vise, make sure there's no chips or dirt or anything in there, move it over to the stop, snug it down, voila. And here, one of the things I like to do with the boring bar is I want to make sure that the ways right here are nice and snug. You know, you get a new boring bar, or even a used one, if they're not snug, it's going to move on you. If it's too loose, it's a problem. If it's too tight, it's a problem. So you want to have a little drag on there. So that's kind of the artsy side we talk about. There's a mechanical side and there's the artsy side. That's a feel. So based on that, I think we've got it pretty well set to go in the hole. And we'll take a little cut and see how that plays out. We could probably speed that up a little bit. Somewhere in that area, to me, is a good speed. We're not taking anything yet. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it in a little bit so we can just touch. I fed it in a few thousandths. Nope. Not yet. We'll try that. Remember, so we're going to use the auto feed. And I've got it set up on medium speed. We'll keep an eye on it. Watch when it goes through the other end, then we can set our stop where we think it ought to be. So, now's a good time to clean up. Machine's doing its own work. Almost through. There we are, we're through. So, we'll disengage it, bring our quill up. We'll take a look and see what we think the size is. So let me get something to check it with. Now we've got graduations on the boring head, but frankly, I like to use an indicator. I think it's easier and better, and certainly more accurate. So I just measured it. We've got 56 thousandths to take off. So half of that's 28. Remember, we don't want to move 56, we want to move half the amount. So I'm going to move about 10 thousandths and take the next cut. And by the way, that's just what it indicated on the boring bar. It came up to be about 10 thousandths. So let's take a cut and we'll double check it. And we're going pretty fast here on the feed. I think when we decide to do our finish cut, we're going to slow it down a little bit. I think that's just a bit too fast. I don't think we'll get as fine a finish as we could if we slowed it down a little bit. So we'll keep an eye on it, see where we're going here. And we're just about through. But you know, for a rough cut, that's all we need to do. We don't need to have a fine feed. That'll save some time. And we're just about through. I can almost see it. There we go. Got it. So we'll take a check now, see where we are. Well, I'm showing 491. So if that's the case, we've got 9 thousandths to take off. All right, a couple more cuts. Now what we could do here is we could stop right there and just check the hole to make sure we're getting what we want. But I'm pretty comfortable that we're okay, so I like the nice little chip we're getting. I think the finish looks pretty good this time. And again, we're getting so close that we might want to use the indicator. I did it the first time just to make sure that the graduations on here were saying what they're supposed to be. Sometimes it says 10 thousandths, you don't really know if it's 10 thousandths or not. So there's no way to really tell unless you put an indicator on there and check it out. Unfortunately, it was what it was supposed to be. Now I'm going to shut the machine off, so when I retract the boring bar, the worst case is I can put I'll put a line in it, but I won't put a swirl in it. Again, put the brake on. Man, I don't know. We are right there. Woo. This is 497, and we're right there. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to feed in anything. I'm just going to take another cut. 497 there, 498 there. So I'll put a little lubricant in there, and we'll give it a shot. And this time, we're not going to feed in. Let's see if it'll just take a little cut. Remember, we're just trying to take a whisker out of there. And I think I see, almost looks like steel wool. So I think we're probably removing something. You know, there's a lot of movement in here, so you just never know. But if our goal is 500, we're getting close. And again, on a finish cut like this, it's a good thing just to let it do its thing. If we have to put the indicator on there, we can do that and feed in another thousandths or so. You good with that, Glenn?
Yeah.
All right. Glenn, by the way, is our renowned cameraman and does all of our editing. And Jim back there keeps me out of trouble. He's always telling me what to do and what not to do, and generally he's right, and if I didn't listen to him, I'd be in a lot of trouble. So my thanks to Jim for keeping me out of trouble. and I think we should be good there. All right, let's see, look at that. I don't know if you can see that. See that fuzz on there? See that? That means we were taking stock off there. Hard to tell, but we were. Wouldn't be there if we weren't. $4.97. $4.98. And pretty straight too. So let's try $4.99. I think it's going to be $4.99. That's my guess. Man, it's right there. I wouldn't take another pass out of that. Here's 500. And that's not going in. So that's $4.99. So that's within a thousands. Now I could take one more pass and see what we do. But again, I didn't feed in. So it did it by itself. There's just enough spring in there where it'll still take a cut. So let's do it one more time and let's see what we end up with. What the hell, all we can do is scrap it, right? All right, we'll watch it. I don't see it doing anything. I mean, it's very, very challenging to get a hole within a thousandths of boring it like this. You're better off jig grinding it. You know, it's almost impossible. This is very, very challenging to do this. You know, you old timers out there, you guys do this in your sleep, but you know, we're going to take these young guys, we're going to put them on a Bridgeport and try to show them how to do this. This is where the art form comes in. I'm talking about the mechanical side is feeding it in. The art form side is like, I didn't feed it in, and it still took a couple thousands off. So that's really important, and I think that our young people need to understand that there are ways to try to machine within a thousands or so. And again, we could put the indicator back on there and on the boring bar, and I could feed in 1 or 2 thousandths, and that would certainly be more accurate than just trying to tweak on it with the wrench and not have an indicator on it. So I'm pretty comfortable that we're going to be right there with this size. And again, we might be a little bit over, hard to say, but we'll give it a check and we'll see. So are the speeds right? You know, that's a gut feel for me. To me, it feels right, and I'm comfortable with it. Could it be faster? Yeah. Could it be slower? Sure. Put the brake on. And again, can you see that? See a little fuzz on there? That means we took something off. I mean, I can probably get that in there, but it might be tapered just a bit. This is 500. This is 499. I mean, that's, look at that. Would it stay in there like that? You're right there. That's within a thousandths. That's pretty challenging to do that, so I'm very happy with that. I like it. Is it 500? Man, it's right there. Would I want to take another cut? I don't think so. I'd rather see it a thousandths under than 3 thousandths over. I'd leave it alone. That's my view on it. Beautiful. That came out perfect. So that gives you an idea about how to use a boring head. And again, we talk about the art form. The art form wasn't about just using a boring bar. The art form was about the feel. You know, do we take another, do we feed it in again, or do we just feed feed it down and let it take another pass by itself. Remember, there's a lot of spring in here that when you're talking within a tenth, remember that's 50 millionths on each side. That's nothing. So, and part of it too, remember, if you have a thread-like finish on there, the next time you go through there, you're going to take the high part of the thread off. So that's part of what's happening when you're taking a second pass or a third pass without feeding in. So that gives you a great idea about how to use a boring bar. Listen, measuring a hole with calipers is very, very difficult, trying to get in there and do it. And using pins like that is a heck of a lot easier. I mean, I can tell you that I'm showing here, I am showing 499, but it's very difficult to do. You know, by the time you pull it out, it wants to move on you. It's hard to do. So anyway, pin gauges are the easiest way to do it. So hope that gives you an idea what it's all about using a boring bar. Thanks for watching.